Have you ever watched somebody believe for healing and didn't receive it? And in the worst case scenarios, you've watched people believe for healing and recovery, and instead of receiving healing, they actually died. Well, I've seen it happen myself. And when things like that happens, what tends to happen is that weakens your faith for healing. You think to yourself, okay, if that person couldn't get it, and I know that person goes to church, I know that person prays, then there's no chance for me because they didn't do it. So if God didn't do it for them, why would he do it for me? And I know how that feels, and I know how that wreaks havoc on your faith, but really, that's not a question we should entertain. Today's topic is, don't let the fact that someone else did not get healed affect your healing. Acts 10:34 says, Then Peter opened his mouth and said, Of a truth, I perceive that God is no respecter of persons. That means that God doesn't have favorites. We all are God's favorites. If God will heal him, he'll heal you. If God will heal her, he'll heal this person over here. However, what happens when somebody doesn't get their healing, we have to say, okay, even though they didn't get it, I'm still going to get mine. And the reason you got to say that is because you don't really know all the circumstances around that particular person's faith. Matthew 13:58 says, And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Now, a person could be saying all the right words, but deep down in their heart, there's unbelief. And if there's unbelief, unbelief stops the healing power of God. So when you look at somebody and you see that they're not getting healed, and you know they're praying and you know they're going to church, you don't know what's going on inside of their heart. You don't know what is actually taking place. You don't know what fears they may have. Job 3 verses 25-26 says, For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came. From the outside, Job had it all going on. Job had success. Job had the wife, the family, the kids, the houses, the camels, the trappings of success in that particular time. But inside of Job, he was a ball of fear. He was not in safety. He was not in rest. And since he was not in safety, he was not in rest, that tells me that he was not in faith. And because Job was not in faith, that opened the door for all the trouble that came upon Job. You remember Job lost his wife, he lost his kids, he lost his possessions, and he lost his health. And all that happened because of what was going on inside of Job. This is something you could not have seen from the outside. From the outside, everything looked like it was all together. So that's why when you look at somebody else from the outside and they're saying all the right words, they're saying all the right prayers, attending all the right services, reading all the verses of scriptures, we don't know what's going on inside of them and why they haven't received their healing. So if they don't receive their healing, we can't allow that to affect us because we don't know what's going on inside of them, just like what's going on with Job. All right, let's look at another example of this. And this is a very grave example here. This is in Acts 12, verses 1-7. It says, Now about the time Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church, and he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. Whoa. Okay. James, brother of John. These are some big time dudes, right? That's like saying Kenneth Copeland was killed. That's big time. So this big time person lost his life in the service of the Lord, and that can affect your faith, and that can really crush your faith. And so if you're looking at that circumstance, and when you see that circumstance, you can think to yourself, okay, if this guy can die, then there's no hope for any of us, right? Let's get verse 3. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. So King Herod saw that the Jews loved the fact he killed James, which was a Christian. So, hey, let me go ahead and get Peter too. But because it was Passover coming, he had to wait a little bit. Verse 4 says, And we had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to the 4 quantities of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Okay, so now James was killed, and now they got Peter. So if you look at the precedents, Peter's going to die too. If God didn't save James, so they thought, then there's no hope for Peter. Since there's no hope for Peter, we might as well just write it all off that Peter's going to die too. But no, the believers at that time, they realized, okay, we was caught slipping with James, but we now get catch slipping with Peter. Verse 5 says, Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto God for him. So, okay, they messed up with James. There was no prior prayer going on for James. They got caught. They didn't realize that it was going to be that way. But when it came to Peter, they said, hey, we're not going to let this thing happen twice. So they prayed without ceasing. Verse 6, and when Herod would not have brought him forth, the same night Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and the keepers before the door kept the prison, and behold, the angel of the Lord came unto him, and a light shined in the prison, and he smote Peter on the side and raised him up, saying, rise up quickly, for his chains fell off of his hands. So this prayer of faith triggered angel to come and get Peter out of prison. This is the power of God. So even though James died, God's power never left. It's just that there was not prayer without ceasing for James. But when the prayer of faith kicked in for Peter, angel showed up. Now we know that God is not a respecter of persons. So the same angel that got Peter out of the situation could have got James out of the situation. So for whatever reason, what was going on with James in the situation, it didn't happen. But that doesn't mean that God is not able and God did not want to do it. So just like in this situation, if you see somebody else die in belief for healing or never seem to get the healing they're believing for, don't let that stop you from reaching out with faith and trying to grab your healing. Because as I said in Job, we don't know what's going on inside. We don't know all the circumstances going around with a particular person. Only thing you can know for sure is what's going on in you, what's going on in your heart. Are you in faith for healing? Are you at peace? Because if you're in faith and you're in peace, and you're in expectation that you're going to receive from God, you can get your healing regardless what else happens around you, regardless of who big time person in faith seem like not to be able to get their healing. Even if it's Benny Hinn who may not receive a healing, it doesn't matter. What matters is, what do you believe in your heart? What's the condition of your heart? What's the faith that you have? What is your expectation? And based on your faith, your expectation, not anybody else's, you can receive from God. So don't let the fact that someone else didn't get healed affect your healing. That concludes today's daily word, and I pray that it was a blessing to you. Before we wrap up, if the Holy Spirit is speaking to your spirit to partner with Church for Entrepreneurs, go to churchforentrepreneurs.com/partner. And if you want to connect with our ministry more, go to churchforentrepreneurs.com and join our online community. You guys be blessed, and I'll talk to you soon.